If you've struggled with back pain for more than a year, you've probably seen a few doctors already. And chances are they've told you the same thing they've told me. And more importantly, they haven't told you the things that are actually important. In this video, I will reveal 6 things that doctors never even bothered to mention. I just kind of stumbled upon them on my own, and they turned out to be critical when it comes to healing back pain. The last thing is something that I think you will never ever hear a doctor ever mention, and I think it's by far the most important, most critical thing when it comes to healing back pain, so make sure to stick around. Before we get into it, you should know that I'm not a doctor, this can't be considered medical advice, but I have struggled with back pain for more than 10 years. I had a really bad experience, but the main point is I had experience. I do have a lot of real world experience when it comes to this, which is why I think you should listen to me and I think I can be of very great use to you. Okay, let's do this. Number one, you can actually heal back pain. Now, you're probably gonna hear a lot of doctors and even like other experts in the area tell you that back pain can't be healed. Some of the diagnoses that you will typically encounter, especially if you work like in an office job, you're sitting a lot, you're not very active, that sort of thing. For a lot of people, these diagnoses will be something of a life sentence. They will carry this for the rest of their lives, and that's mostly because they're probably going to listen to doctors too much. They're going to get dependent on painkillers, injections, they may even have like a few surgeries, and they're not going to do the things that are actually working. Sadly, I've met many people who still struggle with back pain even after decades because they simply refuse to do the work that's required. There are a few simple things you should do, and if you don't do them, well, this can be like a thing that you can't heal. That's what the doctors will all tell you all the time. But it is possible to heal. How do I know this? How can I be so confident in this? Because I healed. I know this can be done because I did it myself. It's not easy, it's not simple all of the time, but it's something that it can definitely be done. I went from someone who had like a lot of back pain all of the time. It was really, really bad. I had like a probably several years of constant, like really intense pain all of the time, especially when waking up or during periods of inactivity. All of the doctors saying like you can't heal this, you're gonna have to like learn to live with this, you're gonna have to manage this. I went from that to like a point where today I pretty much have no back pain at all. Even though I often sit, I still work by sitting in a chair a lot. But because of everything I did, everything I discovered and I recommend to people to do, I think I'm actually kind of healed right now. I very rarely have back pain. It can still happen, of course. And I guess like technically my diagnoses are still true in a sense, but that's not the point. And we'll get to this in a sec. I will explain this more later in the video. But the main point is I was supposed to be a hopeless case. Like I was supposed to never heal. And today I'm healed, I guess, even though I still have like the diagnosis, but that doesn't matter. And I guess like it depends on what you mean by heal completely, because you know an argument can be made that you will never actually like cure the actual illness, disease, but for all intents and purposes, if you have no back pain or it happens like really, really rarely, you're healed. At least that's how I want to look at things. And I think that's a very practical way of looking at things as well. Number two, doctors will almost never tell you that painkillers, injections, other drugs are almost never the solution. They're usually just a temporary band aid fix to get you to kind of like, you know, kind of not bother doctors, to be honest. They're like, just take these like drugs and shut up. I don't want to like deal with this like complex issue, because chronic back pain can be really complex. So they're like more prone to maybe recommend solutions that are gonna shut you up for a while, or at least maybe alleviate the pain temporarily, but they're not attacking like the real issue. They're not addressing the real problem. And of course, we all know that painkillers can often lead to like serious problems, addiction. People even get like, a lot of people, they start developing really serious habits that later may even turn into. And painkillers do have their place. I talk about this a lot in my other videos, and I also talk about this in my free book, which, by the way, you should definitely check out. It's a completely free book about back pain, about how I healed. Check some links in the description or in the pinned comments. It's a completely free book, and this is like a really an actual book, 150, 200 pages. This is not like some garbage I generated with ChatGPT or something like that. This is based on my real world experience, 10, 12 years in the trenches. Definitely check it out. It's completely for free. I made it for you. And yeah, in the book, I actually talk about painkillers. I think they do play a vital role. They should be an important part of the process, but they should be used extremely carefully. One specific phase of the healing journey. Injections, on the other hand, honestly, I've never heard of someone who started with injections and stopped doing them. They're just like something you kind of have to keep doing all of the time, which to me never really sounded appealing. A lot of doctors recommended that to me as well. I never wanted to go down that route because I'm not healing. I'm just like pushing away the problem. I'm postponing it, or I'm like sweeping it under the rug, hoping it's gonna go away. But if you don't address the real issue, so those are temporary band-aid fixes. They may have a role sometimes, but doctors will never tell you like this is not an actual solution. And related to this, number three, surgery is almost probably never truly worth it. I don't know if you know this, but surgery is not even like that effective in addressing back pain. A lot of patients, they end up having the surgery and later, like a few months or years later, they need another one. And then they need another one. And a lot of them, like, they don't even have like any effect from the surgery. They just do it and nothing happens. It's like the same as before, maybe even worse a little bit. And of course there are side effects, like you are going under the knife, the surgeons are operating close to the spine. It's kind of risky. I think it's pretty safe. The statistics are not really like, but it's still surgeries, and even doctors are like really careful not to recommend this too often. But the main point is very few people seem to actually benefit from surgery, and it never stops with one. To me personally, surgery was recommended to me as well. I never even seriously considered it. Again, I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice, so please like do your own decision making. But if you're like, I don't know, if you're like my brother, my sister, and if you ask me like my back hurts, should I do some surgery? I would probably tell you like I don't think it's gonna even work, and not to mention like the risk associated with it. Now, number four is something kind of in the opposite direction of number three, I guess. While you should be careful with the methods you choose to address your back pain and heal, you shouldn't really be fearful. What do I mean by this? Doctors will typically recommend like, oh, you got some serious injury. It sounds like really, really bad with these like Latin terms, and it's like, oh, degenerative disc disease, and it's forever, it's incurable. It can sound really bad, and they're typically gonna recommend like you gotta be super, super careful. Like, don't lift heavy things. Be careful how you move, how you use your body. Like, all of these statements, all of these ideas make you like more rigid. They kind of trap you, and you're always like stiff and like, oh, should I bend over and pick up the thing, or should I like, go and exercise in the gym or anything like that? That's probably the worst advice I ever received from a doctor. Actually, like, I think all of the doctors pretty much recommended something along those lines, like, don't be too active, be very careful how you move, how you lift things, how you use your body. And I think that was the worst thing I could ever hear. Now, let me be clear, there is a time and place for that. If you just suffer like your injury is very recent, maybe it's even like the first time you're experiencing back pain, then you should probably take it easy for at least a few days until the pain subsides. Usually this is the time where you also like want to take some painkillers. You don't want to let your body learn how to be in pain. This is how I got stuck basically, and how it's probably the critical piece of information that people should be educated about. You don't want to kind of teach your body, like the nervous system, to keep resonating, keep vibrating with pain. But in any case, this is like probably a really short period of time. You can't really see a benefit from being like careful and resting for more than 2 weeks. Listen to your doctor here, like, don't take my word for this. But I think at some point, pretty soon after you start feeling a little bit better, you gotta let go of the fear. You can't be too careful. Be free in your body. You should grow stronger, more powerful, more confident in your movements. And I talk about this a lot as well in my other content in the book too. After a while, especially after you see like you're starting to feel better, let loose. Be completely free in your body. Number five, and something that I never, ever, ever heard a doctor mention, and chances are you won't as well, nutrition and diet is huge. At least it was for me, but I think there's a really strong chance it's going to be huge for you as well. Okay, why is this so? Nobody is probably going to educate you on this, but a lot of chronic issues, even chronic back pain or chronic joint pain, comes down to inflammation. Inflammation is actually a natural process in the body. You can't survive without it, you need it. But when the levels are too high, that's when trouble starts to happen. It took me a really long time to notice this, but certain foods made me feel like really bad. And certain foods almost eliminated the pain completely. And it took me years to figure this out. It's kind of like sugar and processed foods. I'm not necessarily sure this is going to work for everyone, but because I think maybe some people are more, they seem to tolerate sugar better and they don't respond too well on like a higher fat diet, let's just say. But for me, things like carnivore, keto, that work really well. And once I started eating like that, my pain levels like dropped significantly. It was a really big game changer for me. And no doctor ever mentioned this. Even at the time, like when I was going through this, even the internet didn't have like a lot of recommendations. I just kind of wanted to lose some weight. I tried the keto diet for the first time and I noticed like, hey, my back pain is also significantly reduced. So I think it's really worth experimenting with nutrition. Definitely check out the free book I mentioned. I talk about this a lot in there, but don't expect doctors to tell you this. They're probably not even gonna bother mentioning nutrition. And finally, the biggest point in this whole video, and something that I think you will never ever hear a doctor say, is that the root cause of your back pain, there's a really big chance it's not what they tell you it is. All of these like common diagnoses like sciatica or degenerative disc disease like L4, L5, L6, ruptured or herniated disc, they sound scary, but often, like a lot of the time, they're not even the true root cause. At least that's what I think was in my case, because I was diagnosed with L5, L6 herniated disc. I was supposed to like be in pain forever and only can manage this and learn to live with it. And today I have no pain. So I guess like I still have the herniated disc, but I have no pain. So I don't see like a correlation here. And even more interesting, if you kind of study and research this, there's a really interesting stat about this. Almost all adult people who, especially if you work in like a chair in an office, it's almost inevitable that you have some disc herniations, and not everyone has back pain. So it's not a one-to-one correlation. These types of diagnoses are not really the root cause of the issue. The real root cause of the issue, at least for me, and I think for a lot of people, I really believe that a lot of emotional and psychological issues, and maybe even like trauma in the way that people use it today, like childhood trauma, early psychological, emotional like distress that has gone unresolved, unaddressed for a lot of years. Trust me, that's like probably the root cause for a lot of people. I may even say like probably even 50% of people with chronic issues, especially chronic back pain, pain in the neck, stuff like that, this is worth looking into. I think you will benefit a lot from exploring this area and addressing this in the proper way. And the best way to do that, well, read my book. The link is going to be in the description. It's completely free. I'll probably create a quiz for you that you can take, a free quiz that's going to help you determine if this may be the case for you. And of course, watch my next video. It's going to pop up somewhere around here. I talk about this more in depth. I'm Mate with Real Deal Heal. I'm glad to help you heal your back. Like and subscribe, comment if you have any questions. I'll see you in the next video. Check it out. That's going to really help you.